Welcome into the Double Squares Golf Show, what I would now call maybe a bi-weekly golf podcast. Nick and Tyler back at it again, here to talk about Tyler's unique experience volunteering at the Cadillac Championship this past weekend at the Blue Monster, not to be confused with the Green Monster, not to be confused with, there's some other joke to make and it's in my mind, but that's okay. Tyler, this has already been one of the episodes of all time due to some network performance issues and mic issues. But we're here and we're doing this damn thing one way or another.
We made it. They had to peel us off the street, but we made it. I don't know how my Wi-Fi wasn't working and your mic decided to crap out on itself for a brief 3 second period, but we made it. We made it. We're ready to roll.
To quote a great friend of mine, Mr. Squarepants, we did all right for a couple of goofballs. And that's where we are right now. But anyway, a very dominant win, I should say, for Cameron Young, who's continuing his little hot streak here, proving to be, as of right now, one of the best players in the world as he wins at the Blue Monster there at Trump Doral to win the returning Cadillac Championship. An event that, because of who owns the course, created a little bit of controversy. I think the field didn't help either. There were some pretty big names, and I didn't think it was that bad of a field. Maybe for a signature event, it wasn't what you wanted. But regardless, Scotty was there. Young, as I said, one of the best players in the world right now. You had the likes of Spieth, Fowler, some fan favorites. Brooks Koepka was there, just waiting. What he's doing best right now is just waiting for his shot. But I didn't think the field was awful. Young running away with it didn't probably help to the grandeur of the event, but I thought it was a fine tournament. I thought 17 and 18 provided a pretty nice challenge. There's a lot of wind that was visible on the broadcasts, as well as you mentioned how windy it was. Some very conveniently placed sand traps, some water, and again, I'm not an expert on knowing what's challenging and not in terms of how it played or whatever. But I thought it was a fine golf tournament. There were some parts where I didn't think that the crowd looked great. But that's kind of to be expected. It was their fifth tournament in Florida. Liv played there last year, and it was, crazy packed. And you can take this however you want. I think the Live crowd probably caters to the Miami demographic a little more than a PGA tournament does. But I'm not here to compare those things right now. But you were the one who was feet away from some of the best players in the world. You saw Justin Rose's new McLaren irons up close.
I mean, I
Uh,
can see them from far away as well. That
yes,
bag
and
was
far away.
violently orange.
Violent's a good word. But can you just talk to us a little bit how the experience came about before we really
Yeah,
dive
and
into the event itself?
yeah, and we'll get into it a little bit because obviously, there are a lot of detractors about this event, but something that we can very much discuss after this. But really cool. So, I mean, if you're local to any PGA event, I'd highly recommend volunteering. That's how they basically staff all these events, is with volunteers, whether you're local or semi-local. So I signed up online because I was thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, it's coming up. I'll be free that weekend. Do I want to pay X number of dollars just to go see golf, or do I actually want to be like involved in some way and get to walk the grounds for free, get free food, do all this stuff? And sure enough, I signed up for it, and I believe I mentioned the three things that I wanted to do. It was the tee box starter, which they only went off on one until the last day, so only I think two people were allowed to be a tee box starter. Number two was shot link and gallery management, which ShotLink, if you don't know, is the what basically tracks where all the balls go and how you find them and what direction they are off the tee. And the other one was player transportation, which would have been sick, but I don't know if I would have been ready to chaperone some of these players around the spot. But yeah, so I signed up and I got ShotLink and got a call about, I don't know, maybe a couple days before from my hole captain. So I was assigned hole 11, which for those of you that have never been there, that haven't played the Blue Monster before, is honestly probably the most like perfectly placed hole on the entire course. You see like 7 or 8 holes right around you. It's right off of one of the longest par fives on the course. It's really, really easy to get to. A lot of bunkers. It's a tough hole. And he said, "Hey, a lot of us are older. You seem like you're taller and can actually see. Do you want to do? You want to be on the tee box and track where the ball goes off the tee?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can absolutely do that." So I finally, back in the day, I didn't know what the guy with the paddles was doing on the tee box, and they're doing that, but you're signifying where the ball is going for the people that are on the fairway for shot link. They're trying to track the ball. So that's was my assignment all day. Hole is playing 451 yards, which is 350 if you're playing from the blue tees, but this is all the way back to the pros because they're so good. And yeah, it was just so cool to be on the tee box and just seeing all these guys up close, all these guys that you watch on TV all the time. And, having played the course before, I kind of knew how, they'd probably play the hole. I played the course about February, which absolutely worth it. Really cool to go play the course and then see how the pros play it. And yeah, signed up for it, got it, and I was there from Thursday to Sunday. I got sick on Saturday about halfway through, got a migraine, so I had to leave early. But outside of the weather delay, really no complaints about the entire weekend. It was just an awesome experience and one that I won't forget for a while.
My mic was muted again. Big Mike is really coming after me today. It was awesome to see Thursday during my lunch break. Scotty Scheffler start on 11, and there you are over his shoulder. I was very envious, but at least it happened to you and not someone I have a great disdain for. But yeah, man, I mean, one of the things that's interesting to me that I don't obviously know how it works is, the course operates day to day, obviously, and then they put up all these temporary structures and whatnot and what have you for when the tournaments come through town. You playing it just like what, a month ago, that course? I mean, what differences did you notice just in that short period of time between when you played and between tournament weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Besides, obviously, how far back the tee boxes were, because we played the blue tees, which are, I think, the third to the. So it's like you got the gold and the blacks behind you, the tips. Then even further than the tips are where the championship tees are, where the course is playing like 7,700 yards. It was just crazy because they had all the grandstands set up. They had all these experiences around the course, like the Cadillac Museum and like all this stuff that was around. But you walk on a hole that you remember playing like 18. I didn't remember how it's kind of hard to explain. Like, you remember how it looks when you play it, but then you go out with all the grandstands set up and you're like, this is not how the hole looked. Like, I hit it into the trees on 18 off the tee. Like, these guys are ripping it down this par four, I believe it was. And yeah, just with all the grandstands set up, all the branding and the tee boxes, the new giant statue, Don Colossus, I believe is what they called it, the gold man statue of the president that they set up right before. And yeah, but the tee box. I mean, the green, the practice green was entirely fenced off, and then they have this fountain that wasn't even running, which is right behind the practice green. Normally, wasn't running when we played it, but it was absolutely running for this event. You can bet your top dollar it was. And then like the range kind of blocked off to the side, like it was wide open. But these guys are, it's kind of condensed a little bit for all these guys to hit. So it was just like subtle changes to the course, and with all the TV towers and all this stuff that they had on every hole. It's pretty cool to see it in a tournament setting, and would have loved to maybe just one day like see how it plays. But I played it pretty close to where the tournament setup was. I played it towards the end of February, and I believe they closed it off mid-March, so there wasn't a lot of time in between that. So I probably got it as close as it was to tournament conditions before they actually did off. But it was so cool to see how it was set up. Like 11, honestly was a really good hole when we played it, because it's about a 350-yard hole. My buddy Josh, who was down, he was visiting, we played and hit a perfect drive in the middle of all the bunkers, because it's like a minefield of bunkers right in front of the green. And he hit a perfect drive right in the middle of all that. But with it being 100 yards back, nobody could reach the spot where he hit it from the tee box, because that's like 400-yard drive. So it was just cool. It was a different setup, and they had like all these areas for food and all this place where you could, like bathrooms and stuff. There's like all these different structures that you wouldn't see if you're playing your random Joe golf course, but this one's set up for a tournament was pretty cool.
Yeah, it looked cool. I was a big fan of the Cadillacs that were floating on water on that one water structure. That was a really cool visual. Visually, I thought it looked pretty good. I mean, it looked like a Florida golf course, but
Yeah.
Cadillac's kind of a luxury brand, and it felt like it was kind of a big deal in certain ways. And like I said, I'm not going to come out here and say it was the perfect golf tournament, but I did think it was getting a little more flack
Yeah.
than it deserved. Some of the crowds did look very sparse, but I want you to clear it up, because you were sending me pictures and the walkways looked really crowded. There looked like there were some big groups following some of the more popular golfers. And I don't know why it didn't come off on TVs that much. And I'm not going to, again, say that this was like some horrible media narrative. Like it did look sparse in some spots, as I just
Yeah,
mentioned. But I mean, from you, how crowded did it seem versus what the discourse on social media
yeah.
was?
And I hate to give excuses. That's like the last thing I want to do. But there are so many reasons into why it maybe didn't look like the Players or the Masters. Because first and foremost, I don't think people realize how big of a property Trump National Doral actually is. There's 4 golf courses at this place. They take up like I want to say almost 20 miles of space. I don't know how big it actually is in square footage, but there are 4 courses. One of them is like completely separate from the entire main 3, which is I believe Silver Fox, Red Palm, and Blue Monster. And then you got the Golden Palm course that's separate from everything. But yeah, so that's part of it. I mean, it took me probably 15 minutes just to walk from where Volunteer HQ was behind the clubhouse to hole 11, which is literally just off the back 9. Like that's how long it took me to walk over there. That's just how far it was. And with all the added security, that was a problem. And then secondly, it's Miami. There are so many things to do. F1 was in town. Like that's a big deal in Miami with all the influencer crowds. They will probably all go over to F1 and you know show off for that. But like a weekday, like it started on Thursday in the morning. Like it's a weekday in Miami, and traffic is horrible. Nobody's going to be there for a weekday round. Like the crowds were solid, and they progressively got better until Saturday and Sunday. I thought were tremendous. Like, there was a ton of people walking around. And then it didn't help on Sunday that there was a rain delay. They pushed it back 2 hours. It was pouring rain. They wouldn't let even volunteers in the on the course. When I first got there, so I went back home and waited until they got the all clear. So there was a lot of factors into why it was, maybe sparsely attended. It's, maybe a Florida fatigue, like it's the 5th Florida event on the calendar, like you mentioned. You start with the Cognizant all the way back in February, and the Players is the big deal. And then it being a no cut event, a signature event is kind of tough to market for that one that hasn't been in it's almost been a decade since the last one. There was just a number of factors that I think we can probably because like Live was so good, and that's another thing that probably took away from it. There was a huge Live crowd, but who doesn't want to get sloshed on the course and get rowdy? Like this was a very respectful and very engaged crowd, and yeah, people were following Scotty and Cam Young all week. Like that's just how it goes. That's how it's going to be at most of these tournaments. If Rory's not there, if Xander Schauffele's not there, if all these guys, and like there were really big crowds for Jordan Spieth, for Ricky Fowler, for Colin Morikawa. Like all week they were following them along, and it was just I thought it was good. I thought it was a really good golf event. People were complaining about the course. I don't think they know how hard it is to maintain a course perfectly in direct Florida sunlight for 365 days a year. That's another factor to it, but I think it played awesome and it was very visually appealing. It's just a nice golf course. And obviously, the name is going to throw people off. I get it, but it is, as I said to my parents and sister, or when I was talking about my first play, it's like, it's just a golf course. It's literally just a golf course. And you can't really, knock it on the fact that this course used to be called, I believe, Doral Country Club. And it, I think, got bankrupt like twice before the Trump company bought it. So like, now that they can put these Cadillac Championships on, it's pretty cool. And I just think it was a good event altogether. With everything else aside, I think it was a good event. And Saturday and Sunday, the crowds were electric. They opened up the fairway. It was kind of muted because obviously Cam Young had such a big lead. But yeah, can't really complain too much about it. But it's the first time the event's been back on the PGA in 10 years. Like you're not going to get a gigantic crowd for this event that doesn't have a lot of history to begin with. But it did have history in the previous years.
Right. I didn't think we were going to hear the course management and upkeep excuse there. They really dug in your bag to find some of those. That's interesting. You mentioned the crowd, and I think a talking point, especially when a foreign golfer is leading. We saw it with Matt Fitzpatrick both times he's been leading and winning events this year on his own, not the scramble thing with his brother. We saw the crowd kind of treat it like a Ryder Cup, and Matt Fitzpatrick seems like a very genuine, easygoing, nice guy who doesn't deserve to, have his family threatened and have derogatory things screamed at him during a run-of-the-mill PGA event.
Not at all.
What kind of vibe was there this past weekend? Was there any of that directed towards any golfers? Was the crowd as rowdy as maybe you'd expect, not being very respectful? How did that go?
I think it was a very respectful crowd all week. And then Sunday it was a little more rowdy because it was the final day, and people were getting fired up for Scotty and Jordan Spieth and all these people just your typical like go dogs and Harris English's backswing or not in his backswing, but after he hits the ball, and it was a good crowd, and I had some really good conversations with some of the people that were just around the hole. Like, you're on that hole for 7 hours a day. You have to start talking to the people that are walking around you. And there were some of all ages, just people that were, out there having a good time and enjoying it and building an interest in this event for future years, I think, which is a big deal. And it was just cool. It's a very respectful crowd. And, it was funny because Justin Rose, I think, finished dead last or around there. But I was helping out one of the volunteers that I met on her hole because her other person left she was manning the ropes and the other person left. So I was helping out, and Justin Rose was in dead last. And, he waved all these people to walk through, took a couple selfies with people on the hole. Like, it was a pretty cool, like, experience. And, I didn't think it was like, them chanting against Matt Fitzpatrick at Harbor Town or the Ryder Cup or all that. It was really awesome. And I think it was very heavily American field, which is to be expected. But, with all the foreign golfers that were out there, you're thinking of the Audric Potgieters, the Hoygaards, all those guys that are out there. I mean, it was very respectful. And I think that people in Miami, the thing about that is, like, this is a place where golf has a history and people recognize that. It's not your, average Joes out there hacking all the time. It's people that are trying to build an interest in the sport. And I think that was really cool that there was nobody that was causing a problem, in my opinion. It was all just watching some good golf and having a good day out on the course.
Should be noted that this is now the second time in his career Justin Rose just blindly tried new irons, and it may have backfired spectacularly. We'll see what happens there. It doesn't count until Ian Poulter struggles for the Majestics in Washington, D.C. this weekend. If he struggles, then we really know those McLaren clubs are garbage. If you want to send me a free set, though, so I can try them out, that'd be great. Anyway,
Yeah.
can you just kind of talk about, any interactions maybe you had with any golfers? You texted me a couple ones that made me, I'm not going to act like I was crawling on the floor laughing, gasping for air, but I blew some air out of my nose pretty hard and smirked. So can you tell me about any of those interactions with any of the PGA's finest?
Yeah, it was a couple, and then I got a nice little souvenir story I could tell as well, which I could probably also save for the end because it's a pretty big deal. I think the biggest interaction that I had, and this is ridiculous that it happened to me. So in the 15 minutes that I spent having to man the fairway, you literally had to relieve one of the older gentlemen that was doing the fairway shot link because he wanted to go get lunch, and we had someone else on the tee, so I went down to relieve him. Nico Echevarria hits a ball that goes directly into the tree above me, and I hear it thunk and hit the ground. And for the life of me, I'm really good at finding golf balls. I could not find this thing at all. And he walks down and he's like, "Did you see it? Did you hear it?" I'm like, "I heard it. I heard it bounce in the rough, but I don't see it." And of course, Sahith Thigala walks by and finds it as it's plugged in the ground about a foot. I'm like, how am I supposed to see that? Like, if I'm not actually looking for it. So unfortunately, I don't think it messed up Nico Echevarria, and he probably won't even ever remember that. But that was probably the more embarrassing of the experience. It's like, man, I was down here for 10 minutes and I lost this dude's ball. And it's probably something I shouldn't say, but it did happen. And he hit a good shot to the green and a plug lie. So that was pretty sweet. But other than that, on the tee box, just a couple, your odd golfers asking me to move. Brian Harmon's caddy asked me to move twice. And we know how long he takes to get his swing off to begin with all the waggles, but, it's for a reason. And it was the first day. Justin Rose was like, "Could you move a couple of steps up for me, boss?" It was just interactions like that were pretty funny. But yeah, other than that, I think the Echevarria one was probably the most like face-to-face time I had with a golfer. I didn't chat with anybody or, chop it up with someone while they were waiting on the tee box, but it was cool to hear just them talking to their caddies, how they go over these shots. And I think almost 95% of them aimed at the red bushes that were off of hole 12 at the end of the hole. So I'm like, oh, maybe I know how to play the hole now. But yeah, it was cool. And to just see them all up close, it was funny. One time, Keegan Bradley was about to tee off, and Shane Lowry goes, "Keegan!" really quickly, because some dude is pulling a cart into the fairway, right in front of the tee box. And we were all like, "What are you doing, man? Why would you choose that time?" And then all these people, these camera crews sometimes would set up directly in front of the tee box. And I forget, I think it was Brian Harmon's or somebody else's caddy was like, "That is the worst possible place for you to be, dude." Told him to move behind the red stakes. So it was pretty funny. And it would make more sense if I had a visual to show you of what I meant by the red stakes, but just how the hole was set up. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's just like some people don't know how to act in these situations. So
That's awesome. You're a new Brian Harmon fan and me telling you to move out. Justin Rose getting told to move politely by a British man would be really fun. Especially Justin Rose, just seems like such a nice guy. Anything else
yeah,
you want to share? I know you have the souvenir story. Any other weird things that happened? Any other thoughts on the experience overall?
yeah. I mean, outstanding tacos at the stand at 12 pulled pork tacos were awesome. It was really good food. I got $50 worth of food every day because I work 2 shifts technically, so I got vouchers. But I live so close, I didn't need to worry about making dinner or getting dinner there. But yeah, I mean, I got you some merch. I got you this little hat right here that I'm going to bring up in June when we have our big event. So be ready for Nick Hedrick to be donning the Cadillac Championship hat. I met some really nice people. That was cool. I met a girl that was my age that was, working it for the first time, and it's fun to kind of have someone that I could like talk to a little bit because I didn't know anybody else there, so that was sweet. But other than that, yeah, I mean the stories are pretty cool. So nobody saw this happen but me. Scotty Scheffler on Thursday misses a very short putt. I believe it was for birdie, and he comes off the green, and we know how psycho Scotty is. He just tosses his ball into the creek right off a 10. And I'm the only person, the only soul on the entire course that saw him do that. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to wait for the next couple groups to come through. Maybe if there's some space, I'll go down and check. Me and one of our other volunteers that I told about it walked down and looked, and we saw a ball directly in the middle of the creek. So I'm like, I might go in and get that if I have some time. Check and see if it's his. And for those of you that don't know, Scotty doesn't actually mark his balls. He uses high numbered Pro Vs. So I believe 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are the numbers that he uses, so he doesn't confuse it with others because so many golfers use Pro Vs. So I take my socks and shoes off, I wade into the creek, and I grab it, and it's Titleist Pro V1 8, which is currently on my mantle to the right of me. And it's Scotty Scheffler's ball. So that was a nice little souvenir to take from it. I also got Chris Goddard's ball later in the day. Someone told me he threw it in there, and his was a Bridgestone Tour X Pro, I believe, and he marked it up quite a bit, so I knew it was his. Gave that one to a kid because I was like, I already got Scotty's. I don't need to hoard another golf ball that it's just gonna collect dust.
The
So I'm
Zach
like, hey,
Handel of golf balls.
I know, right? It's like, hey, kid, what do you think about Chris Goddard? He's like, I think he's a pretty good golfer. I'm like, well, that's a great answer for me. I just tossed him the golf ball, and he thought it was pretty sweet. But yeah, pretty cool experience. One that I'll absolutely do again. But just like, I think the thing that shocked me the most about seeing the pros play, because you know how we swing golf club, the ball flight's pretty, but just the pure hang time that these guys get on their drives and their woods are just insane. I didn't expect to see it just, cascading through the air like a rocket, on the tee box every single time. But it was just so awesome, just so pretty to watch it like stay in the air for like 10 seconds. It was awesome. I think that's the thing I'll take away from it is just the experience. It was really cool to be a part of. I'll absolutely do it again, and maybe I'll go up to the Cognizant in West Palm next year, and maybe volunteer there if I have time or something like that. But it was a really cool experience and one that I recommend. And unfortunately, I wish there were more Western PA tournaments. Maybe you could try your hand at one of those eventually. But standing in direct sunlight for 4 days, I don't think is going to go great for Nick Hedrick.
Nah, not this complexion.
But but yeah, really like a 10 out of 10 experience, one that I really enjoyed. And yeah, it was good. I can't think of anything besides the migraine that I got that was that I could, complain about from the weekend. It was pretty sweet. Other than it was funny, the one guy that was going to relieve me briefly on 11, I think it was Friday. It was his last day. He'd already got his couple shifts in. He's like, I got to get my voucher for the course, which I got to mention that I have 2 vouchers to play the Blue Monster between June and October 31st, which I'm going to potentially use with my father, pending the NFL schedule, because he's a big Dolphins fan. So we'll see. But I got one of the older gentlemen's vouchers and my own, so I have the numbers on the bottom to call and tell them. So that'll be cool to play the course again, free this time instead of $600. It was like, yeah, the one time the guy took forever. I called that I was ready to be relieved at 1:25. He didn't show up until 2:10.
Jeez.
And I was like, God, where is this guy? And then it turned out to be one of the cooler guys. Like he was my age, and we were just talking about golf like the whole time and like chopping it up on a tee box. Like it was pretty cool. You never know. You never judge a book by your cover. I guess that's the lesson to learn.
Well, I'm glad it went well. I know you were hyping that up. Your tournament also went well that you played in at Panther Run a couple weeks ago. That's going to be a few weeks late, but we will get into that next week if you can remember the stories until then.
Oh, absolutely. That was some of the best golf I've ever played, and I can't wait to tell it.
Yes, this is we advertise this show as, our golf journey. So I think giving things like this and like your tournament their own episodes is the way to go. So we can solely focus on that and break it up from us hee-hawing about the golf world from two guys who do not work in the golf world for a little bit. So Tyler, thanks
Maybe one day.
for sharing that, and looking forward to hearing about Panther Run next week, my friend.
Yes, sir. Me too.
All right, this has been the Double Squares Golf Show. I'm Nick. That is Tyler. Thank you for enduring this and our audio issues and our video freezing. If you made it till the end, comment Cadillac, and maybe one day, maybe if we ever have merch, we'll send you something for free. We'll find you. It might be 5 years from now. We'll find you. I promise. This is not an empty promise. I swear. I swear. I know it'll happen. Please. But thanks for joining us. We'll see you all next week. Take care of yourselves.